The Earth's subterranean world holds an undeniable allure, a realm of breathtaking beauty and profound mystery. But beneath the surface lies an environment of absolute zero forgiveness, where a single misstep, a moment of panic, or a piece of missing equipment can set in motion an irreversible chain of events. Such environments are indifferent to human experience or intention. This is a breakdown of 3 harrowing cave tragedies, analyzed not for sensation, but to understand the precise sequence of events, the human decisions, and the environmental factors that led to catastrophe. These are not just stories. They are vital lessons in the language of risk that govern the dark, confined spaces of the planet. On January 29, 2017, 32-year-old Gregory Wilhelm was vacationing in Maui, Hawaii with 3 friends. Their recreational day at the picturesque Wainapanapa State Park took a fatal turn when they decided to explore the entrance to a sea cave. While the 2 women in the group stayed near the sunlit pool at the cave entrance, Gregory, driven by curiosity and a desire for adventure, convinced his other male friend to join him inside. Their preparation for entering this complex environment was critically minimal. Gregory used his cell phone as his only light source, sealed inside a Ziploc bag in a futile attempt to keep it dry. They waded into the darkness, soon reaching a point where the water rose to their waists. Their path was blocked by a large boulder beneath which lay a deep, dark pool, a known spot for experienced cave divers. Lacking any proper gear, they agreed on a rapid, exploratory dive, estimating it would take only a minute. Gregory, carrying the only light source, led the way. His friend followed closely behind, navigating by the faint beam of the phone. Once submerged, they quickly realized the depth was far greater than they had anticipated. Driven by the thrill of discovery, Gregory swam further into a narrow passage. However, the dynamics of this sea cave were unpredictable. Ocean swells caused violent currents and rapid, dramatic water level changes inside the confined space. As the water level suddenly surged, Gregory's friend, gripped by fear and disoriented by the sudden shift in water pressure and current, turned and swam back toward the entrance. He swam in total darkness, abandoning Gregory deeper inside the passage without warning. When Gregory needed air and tried to turn back, he found himself alone, disoriented, and surrounded by impenetrable blackness. His makeshift light source was now useless in guiding him back through the silt-choked water. In a mounting panic, he managed to locate a small trapped pocket of air near the ceiling. But the cave environment offered no respite. The constant movement of the tide made the air pocket temporary and the currents beneath him treacherous. Forced to make a desperate choice before his limited air supply ran out, he pressed forward, hoping to find another exit or a larger chamber. Meanwhile, his friend miraculously found his way back to the entrance pool and surfaced, gasping for air. There was no sign of Gregory. Alarmed, the 2 women entered the cave and found Gregory's friend in a state of shock and disorientation. Realizing the extreme danger, the male friend re-entered the darkness. He instructed both women to scream so he could use the echoing sound as a beacon to help him find his way back out. During his 3rd dive back into the gloom, he spotted a tiny light in the distance that grew brighter as he approached. It was Gregory's phone, still illuminated inside its plastic bag, but Gregory himself was gone. The subsequent investigation concluded that in the tight, confusing passages, Gregory had lost all sense of direction. Each failed attempt to retrace his steps consumed precious oxygen and amplified his panic, a psychological state that rapidly degrades decision-making capacity. He ultimately took a wrong turn, and by the time he realized his error, it was too late. He drowned in the absolute dark. Rescuers later recovered his body 75 feet deep within the cave system. The failure chain here is stark. A critical lack of preparation, including no reliable light source, no guideline, and no understanding of the cave's tidal dynamics. The critical error was the separation. They broke the fundamental rule of staying together in a zero-visibility environment. The improvisation with a cell phone light was a clear indicator of being dangerously under-equipped for the environment they chose to enter. The lesson is clear. Never underestimate a cave's power, and never enter without the proper tools, training, and a strict adherence to safety protocols. The dangers of confined spaces extend beyond water and depth. On September 17, 2000, brothers Michael and Paul Hayden decided to explore an abandoned well cave in Goss Canyon, California. It was a place they had known since childhood, featuring dry ledges and a deep water pool. Paul, a master sergeant and elite scuba diver with the Air Force Para-Rescue, was the more experienced of the two. He was equipped with full scuba gear, providing 2 hours of air, and used a head-mounted GoPro camera for illumination. Michael remained near the pool as a surface tender, managing a rope tether attached to a large boulder. This system allowed them to communicate. A series of tugs confirmed that everything was okay. For the first 20 minutes, the communication system worked perfectly. Then, Michael pulled the rope twice, expecting a response, but received none. Pulling again, he found the rope taut and immobile. Initially thinking Paul was simply stuck, he pulled with all his strength, but the line remained fixed. With Paul's air supply dwindling rapidly, Michael immediately left the cave to seek help from the local fire department. A key evidence to understanding the tragedy came from the footage recovered from Paul's GoPro. It showed the exact moment. He reached an air pocket within an abandoned water shaft and made the fatal decision to remove his regulator to take a breath of what he assumed was fresh air. The air in these stagnant, uncirculated pockets, whether formed in abandoned shafts or naturally within the cave, becomes contaminated. Gases released by the decay of surrounding soil, rock, and organic material, combined with gases released through water erosion, lead to a dangerous and often lethal buildup of carbon dioxide. Paul, despite his high level of training as a military scuba diver, was not a certified cave diver, a discipline requiring specialized knowledge of atmospheric hazards. He knew the theoretical risk of such air pockets and usually carried a lighter to test the oxygen levels. If a flame extinguishes, the air is not safe to breathe. On this tragic day, he did not have his lighter and assumed the air was safe for a single brief breath. The footage captured the walls of the shaft, followed by a sudden submersion as Paul instantly lost consciousness. He made no attempt to replace his regulator. The cause of death was instantaneous incapacitation due to acute carbon dioxide poisoning, followed by drowning. The failure here was a critical misjudgment based on incomplete information and a failure to adhere to a personal safety protocol. It highlights the vital life-saving distinction between recreational or even military scuba diving and the specialized, rigorous discipline of certified cave diving, where atmospheric checks are mandatory. The lesson is that seemingly breathable air in a confined space can be a death trap. The most complex tragedies often involve highly experienced individuals pushing the boundaries of exploration. On March 26, 2016, a team of 10 experienced cave divers, including Mike Young and Navy veteran Shane Thompson, were mapping the recently reopened sections of the Santa Rosa Blue Hole in New Mexico. This specific site had a deadly history, having been sealed after fatalities decades earlier. On the third day, Mike and Shane planned to explore a very tight spot at 140 feet, then push beyond a narrow opening at 165 feet depth. The plan was explicit and non-negotiable. Shane was to wait at the 165-foot opening, while Mike proceeded alone through a series of 5 more restrictions, carrying his side-mounted tanks and rebreather unit. But as soon as Mike was out of sight, Shane chose to follow a direct breach of their agreed-upon protocol. Mike, unaware he was being followed, continued along the guideline. Shane, close behind, soon found his progress blocked in a narrow, silt-filled passage. As he tried to maneuver, his back-mounted rebreather unit snagged on a protruding rock, trapping him tightly. In the confined space, panic took hold. His breathing became fast and shallow, a dangerous state for a rebreather, which requires controlled, steady respiration to function correctly and manage the gas mixture. Suddenly, Mike's arm bumped into Shane's head. They were face-to-face in a space too tight for both of them to operate effectively. After several minutes of intense struggle, Mike managed to free Shane by pushing him through the restriction. But the situation was already compounding. As Shane moved back, he accidentally displaced the guideline, disorienting Mike. Shane, still gripped by panic, continued forward and soon encountered another narrow passage. In his haste, he became entangled in the guideline, freed himself, but in doing so lost the line entirely. With no clear exit and only tight holes around him, his heart began to race and his breathing accelerated dramatically. A rebreather is highly efficient, but its complexity makes it sensitive to rapid, uncontrolled breathing, which can overwhelm the system's ability to scrub CO2 or manage oxygen delivery. Without the guideline, and with his breathing overwhelming the rebreather's capacity, Shane switched to his emergency bailout tank for air. Mike, having managed to find the guideline again, assumed Shane had gone ahead. He felt tension on the line, which he misinterpreted as Shane pulling from the front. Realizing his mistake, Mike backtracked through the tight passages and boulders, only to find the line had gone slack. He pressed on and discovered Shane wedged lifelessly in a final narrow opening. His bailout tank was empty, his suit torn, and his equipment showed signs of a desperate struggle. He had fought hard to free himself, but did not survive. The failure chain here is a textbook example of cascading errors in a high-risk environment. It began with a breach of the dive plan, which led directly to entrapment. This triggered panic, which caused guideline errors and accelerated breathing, leading to equipment failure and the consumption of his emergency gas supply. The lessons are absolute: never deviate from the pre-dive plan. Panic is a primary killer in confined spaces. Training is designed to override it. The guideline is a literal lifeline. Its integrity is non-negotiable. And advanced life support equipment, while powerful, demands absolute discipline. Beyond the specific human errors in these incidents, the environment itself is an active hazard. Systems like Culverson Creek Cave, located in the unstable karst topography of places like West Virginia, exemplify the ever-present risks of rockfall and flash flooding. Karst landscapes are inherently unstable, formed by the dissolution of soluble rocks, which leaves behind voids, sinkholes, and large, often precarious chambers. These geological structures can channel water with terrifying speed. These environments do not offer second chances. A sudden shift in a boulder, dislodged by seismic activity or water pressure, can seal an entrance or a passage instantly, trapping explorers with no recourse. Similarly, a distant rainstorm can transform a dry passage into a raging torrent in minutes, far faster than any human can react or retreat. The common threads connecting these tragedies form a clear pattern of risk convergence. A chain of failure is almost always a combination of environmental factors, human decision-making under duress, and equipment limitations. In each case, the point of no return was reached not by one colossal error, but by a sequence of smaller missteps that compounded into an inescapable situation within an unforgiving space. The analysis points to 5 non-negotiable principles for anyone considering venturing into such realms, whether wet or dry. First, acquire proper training and certification specific to the environment. Cave diving is a separate and necessary discipline from recreational diving, and vertical caving requires specialized rope skills. Second, implement absolute equipment redundancy. This means multiple independent light sources and backup gas supplies calculated for the worst-case scenario, not the planned scenario. Third, adhere strictly to the dive or exploration plan and established protocols. These rules exist because others have died breaking them. Fourth, maintain meticulous discipline with guidelines and communication systems. They are your only tether to the outside world and your partner. And fifth, maintain a profound respect for the environment, forecasting hazards and acknowledging that geological and hydrological conditions can change in an instant, often far from the immediate point of entry. These stories are presented with respect for the individuals involved and their drive for exploration. The goal is to transform morbid curiosity into informed caution, delivering a clear understanding of the risks involved, and promoting a respect for the delicate and often deadly balance between human ambition and the unforgiving power of the world beneath our feet. For more deep dives into the mechanics of high-risk scenarios and survival, consider subscribing and exploring our other videos.